two. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello everybody, welcome to Extraordinary People. I am Patricia. I'm going to introduce my guest today. I met today's guest for the first time a year ago by chance. A year later, I was so happily surprised to see how much he has evolved. After a diving accident rendered him tetraplegic, he continued to be active in society, active being an understatement. He has been working for 16 and 17-hour days for almost 2 years, an achievement that many people in the prime of their health cannot keep up. Ever since the August 4th Beirut explosion in 2020, he is head of the NGO Offre Joie, an NGO that has developed into a voluntary movement, which now specifically is committed to the reconstruction and restoration of buildings destroyed from this tragic event. The NGO is also about much more, but at the moment this is their priority. He believes in a divine intervention that has given him strength, and he is grateful to his support system, his many friends and family of whom he is surrounded constantly, and now he is engaged to a young lady who is his biggest supporter. With her help, he realized that in order to help others, he must help himself first. And he has come leaps and bounds from that day of the diving accident. He has gained mobility in his arms. He expresses himself wonderfully. He is so solid in his thoughts and so good of heart. It's a great pleasure to talk with him. I want to welcome my extraordinary guest today, an inspiring person from whom we can all learn and get motivated. When there is a will, there is a way. He is a perfect example of how the power of the mind is our greatest strength. If he can make a difference, we all definitely have it in us to do so ourselves. A huge welcome, Marc Torbey. Hello.
Patricia, thank you for this, I would say, long
Long.
introduction and these very nice words. And thank you for the opportunity and Mabruk for the launching of the podcast
Thank
as
you
well.
so much. Thank you for accepting to be with me and sit with me
It's
and
a pleasure.
sharing.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm not sure how to start, Marc. I think maybe we should start maybe with your diving accident before we head on to Offre Joie. What do you think?
Well, yes, to put things in context,
Right.
even before the diving accident, I was 24 years old when I was nominated a bank manager in the bank Lebanon Française where
Yes.
I work.
Yes.
And I was the youngest branch manager, I think, in the area.
That's incredibly young at 24 years old.
Yes, exactly, because the
Right.
bank believed in the young management
Okay,
approach.
right.
And back then I used to do like 4 professional sports as well. And I was active at Offre Joie as well.
Since the age of 7.
Since the age of 7,
Yes.
I was a child who participated at children camp.
Right.
So I had a very, I would say, busy life. It's not something new for me.
Very active.
Very active, and I had this diving accident at the age of 27, and I decided that this accident is not going to change who I am,
Wow.
nor what I do, nor what I want to do. So
From the very beginning you thought this way?
listen, I remember that I had a diving accident.
Right.
I was away for a couple of minutes, and then I woke up again, and I remember every moment since. The moment I arrived to the hospital at the ICU unit, and this is where I met Elise, by the way, my fiancée.
Right away from the first day?
Yes, she was
Okay.
the attending nurse back
Okay.
then.
Okay.
So
So
I
blessing
asked,
in disguise.
yes,
Yeah.
and I asked my doctor to tell me the truth, tell me what's wrong with
Right.
me, and he explained it. And this is when I just looked up and
You gave yourself to God.
exactly.
Yeah.
It took me
That touched me
one
a lot.
fraction of a second with no hesitation.
Right.
And this is where I understood that I have a mission. That's why I stayed alive. I could have passed away.
You could have also went into a depression.
Also,
some
or
people
have cerebral damage, or
right.
So I understood that me staying alive was for a reason,
right.
and I was sure that there was a purpose for that, and I wanted to find out what this reason was, or what's my purpose in life now. Because I was sure that I did not go through all of this just to see if I can
not just for personal gain.
yes, or even if I was sure that I'm not just checking if I can tolerate the pain or the sadness or the difficulties and the trauma. There must be something more than that, and this is where my focus went.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask you. Do you think you would have, because you've made such a difference in so many people's lives, do you think you would have done that anyways? Well, we don't really know. But
I don't really know exactly, but I never wanted to intentionally make a difference in people's lives. I just wanted to continue my life as it was, and continue doing what I love doing. And this is when, after my accident and my rehabilitation process, I got back to work, and
you still work at the bank?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
I'm the people experience manager at the human resources department, after having spent a long time at the branch network and the corporate risk departments. And then I also became president of Afrojoie like 2 years ago, and just wanted to continue my life as I used to do before. And then the Beirut explosion happened, which was like I would say a spark, yes. And we'll talk about that.
Okay. I think that maybe all of these experiences and that you were into extreme sports and you were so active gave you a lot of energy to continue and to have this kind of mindset right now. So the August 4th explosion happened. And how do you function? I mean, you're in shock, and how do you start functioning from the moment that this happened? I mean, what comes to your mind? Like, do you run, or do you get somebody? What happens? Like, how did you feel when this happened?
Well, yes, Patricia, this is I would say a life-changing date.
For so many people.
For so many people,
right.
I guess for all Lebanese people, and 4th of August was a tragedy.
Yeah.
For Lebanon, for Beirut. It's considered to be the 3rd biggest explosion in history of mankind.
Right.
We have a
man-made explosion.
Man-made explosion.
Yeah.
We have a destroyed capital. We have more than 232 victims. We have more than 30,000 blessed. Injured, sorry, and 300,000 homes completely destroyed. Not to mention the economy, the small businesses, the companies, and all the cycle that comes with it, and the collective trauma we all lived. So it's not only about construction damage.
It's rebuilding our lives also.
So at the time of the explosion, it took us some time to realize and to start processing what happened.
Right. So I guess you started with cleaning up.
Like everyone, we saw a mass solidarity campaign where it was wonderful, where people coming from all over Lebanon with their brooms, cleaning the streets and trying to help out. And this was heartwarming to see.
It was wonderful
to see. And I was very proud of all these beautiful souls that decided to help out and to try to help in any way possible. And at Afrojoie we also wondered what can we do. And And there we have a beautiful story to tell.
Yeah, and we're waiting. We'd love to hear it.
So Afrojoie was created in 1985. It's a non-political, non-religious, non-governmental organization.
By members of the Red Cross.
By friends and members of the Red Cross, and the purpose was to stop war and promote peace. And it started with children summer camps from children who came from all Beirut.
So it simply started with a summer camp?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And back then it was crazy to send your children in a summer camp with children coming from all regions and confessions, while civil war was
it's right in the middle of the civil war. Right.
So it started like this, and it grew bigger and bigger and bigger until we reached camps with 1,100 children. Doing the Tour du Liban and promoting peace.
Oh, and you would take them all over Lebanon?
Sure. So it was a message of peace, and it evolved to, with time, to more children camps and more solidarity and more building bridges between communities.
Is it kids from all social levels?
All social levels, all confessions, all Lebanese regions. They learn how to live together with the 3 principles of love, forgiveness, and respect.
Respect, right.
And they learn how to do the Lebanese anthem in the morning, to divide into groups, to play together all day, and to pray all together at night.
Question, did you ever follow up on these children?
Of course.
And how are they doing now? I mean, how are they interacting?
Most of them become volunteers
that's
later
wonderful.
on. Yes.
It just goes to show how when you put a little bit of time in education, what a difference, and love, obviously, what a difference it makes.
So later on we continued we started rehabilitation works, and we went into public schools and public prisons, and we rehabilitated a big number of prisons and schools. And
Renovations, you mean?
Yes, renovations and rehabilitations. And we also started to work in the poorest areas, not only in Lebanon, but in the Middle East. In Tripoli, in Bab al-Tabbani, and Jabal Mahsen areas. So we worked there for 18 years.
Wow.
And we still are.
And you're still present
Yes,
to this
not
day.
only with rehabilitation works, but also with children and with the community, and
How do
to
you
empower the
function?
society.
How do you function with all the politics around?
These 2 areas had I would say confessional conflicts.
Yeah, exactly.
And it went too far, and the civil war was really nasty and had I would say terrible impact on people living there, with the lowest the highest poverty rates in the Middle East.
Right.
So they used them.
Exactly.
They used poverty to fuel their wars.
Yeah.
And it took us a lot of time, and it still is, to I would say try to elevate the human rights level, and to include education, empowerment.
So you did
liberation.
have an impact in that sense with the people.
Of course.
Because there's
Children of the 2 areas are now friends.
That's wonderful.
We witnessed a lower, I would say, criminality, criminal activity between the kids that were coming to our camps. We noticed also a higher level of education. You see women empowerment sometimes,
more active
activities, etc.
Right.
And so on. So, long story short, with all these activities, we also intervened after the 2006 war in the South Israeli war, to also rehabilitate schools and areas after the war. We also intervened after a lot of bombings that hit Beirut throughout these years.
Sorry, I'm interrupting, but it seems like you're starting always at the base with kids, because they're the future.
This is the only hope for change in Lebanon. So we'll talk about this theory I have later on.
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
But I think the change cannot come by adults. It's going to come by the new generation and the
Right.
youth and the children.
Right.
So all that being said, we had gained some experience, I would say, in construction and rehabilitation and so on. And that's why we had to take a decision after the Beirut 4 explosion. And then we had this meeting at our offices, and we invited all the volunteers to come so we can make a collective decision on what's to be done.
Right.
And you know, we sent teams of volunteers to all the Beirut streets to take some pictures and write like a small report of what's the situation.
Right.
And
what's the most imminent, what's the most important pressing
and all
things?
teams came back at night, and we put them all on a big board, and we started to evaluate what's urgent, what's imminent, what's the more what's most risky, where are the most damaged areas, where can we intervene.
That was probably just like a second shock for you, I imagine.
It was sad to see our city completely destroyed.
Yeah.
And we needed to take a decision. I think the wisest decision the group took was to set a perimeter, and
you decided to work in the area.
In areas.
I think that was a wonderful decision.
Yes.
Because I asked you, because there's so many NGOs on the ground. I mean, you guys have to end up working together in a way to agree to each one has to take care of one certain area. So I guess that's what you did.
Exactly. So when we set this perimeter, we took like two areas. One would be Karantina and the other would be Maram Khayl, Rabat Street. And we set this parameter that Ofrijwa will be rehabilitating all buildings and apartments within this perimeter. And this perimeter included 57 buildings, 6 streets.
Wow.
The Beirut Fire Brigade Department.
Wow.
And the Karantina Church and 5 heritage buildings.
Okay.
It was a huge perimeter.
It is.
And back then, I can tell you that it was a lot, because it was going to need a huge force of volunteers and a huge budget.
Yes.
And
I was going to ask about that.
yes,
right.
and still we had a decision to make.
Okay. So where did the funding come from for all of this?
Yes, that's a very good question. We should know that since 1985, Ofrijwa had never asked for a grant or written any grant proposals, which is the standard way of raising
in
funds
developed
for
countries,
NGOs,
this is what they do.
whether local or international. But
Right.
we have a kind of a different approach, where we never sign conditional grants, because our force is a volunteer force.
Oh,
Everyone at Ofrijwa is a volunteer, unless for like specific positions that need to be run by professionals.
Okay.
But otherwise, we're all volunteers. And then, if we're all volunteers, we cannot commit to contracts and to conditions and to so on.
So even the builders, the plumbers, the electricians.
No, these workers are paid, but the volunteers are the main power, and I'll explain how.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, we had like $80,000 at the bank, and you know there's a bank in a crisis in Lebanon,
Exactly.
and you cannot withdraw these $80,000 in cash.
Right.
That's another chapter. But the budget, the preliminary budget, was around $3 million in cash.
Wow. And $3 million was enough to do all of this work?
At first, we thought it was enough.
Oh, okay.
So we had like zero cash dollars in our accounts.
Right.
But still, we launched a call for volunteers.
Okay.
So at least we needed to know how many people are ready to help.
Right.
Right? You know,
Yes.
you needed a huge number of volunteers. But then, 1 week later, 6,000 volunteers registered.
That's amazing. And they're not all Lebanese.
And they're not all Lebanese.
There's some that came from outside.
6,000 people registered and participated in our activities in 18 months. Most of them from Lebanon, from all Lebanese regions.
Wow.
Also, we'll be talking about that. And from 17 countries of the world.
That's beautiful and amazing.
People bought tickets and came from 17 countries of the world to participate in Afrijwa's activities.
From their own funds?
From their own funds.
Wow, isn't that amazing how many good people there is in the world?
It's heartwarming to see this international solidarity with Beirut and with the Lebanese people after this explosion.
And we
this
should
is
mention
something, and this is something you don't see elsewhere.
No, we should mention it more often.
Yes.
Because it has kind of a snowball effect, and it'll encourage others to do so.
I believe it's a human treasure that should be kept in people's minds and
reminded.
Yes, exactly. So when we had the 6,000 registered people, we understood that, okay guys, it's coming. We're gonna have the funding, we're gonna have the people, we're gonna have the workforce we need, and yalla, let's start the works.
It was the vitamin and the nourishment to the project.
Exactly, and it gave us a lot of enthusiasm and adrenaline rush to start the works right away.
Oh, that's a nice way to put it, adrenaline rush, right.
But then again, if you think about it, it needed planning, organization. You cannot just invite 6,000 people to come and the next day, if like 1,000 people came.
Right, how are you going to organize
How do you organize it?
And now I feel like going in and start painting the wall or something.
So the volunteers started creating departments and so on, and they created 17 departments.
That takes a lot of time in organization.
Of course, and then they started working 18 hours a day.
Wow, including you.
Including everyone.
Right.
And then they started to collaborate together and create softwares and use applications and online stuff and
so it's building geometrically.
Yes, and honestly I wasn't able to follow with them everything they were doing, but I guess that everyone was in charge of.
So you delegated a little bit.
Of course, it's a huge project.
Right.
So we needed departments. To receive these 6,000 people, you need first like team leaders to handle them. You needed their clothes they needed to wear.
That's true.
You needed the masks, the casks.
Because there was a corona pandemic at the same time.
The gloves, the material they would be using. You needed to assure like a breakfast and lunch for everyone.
That's true.
You needed to secure funding.
A lot of logistics we don't think about.
Legal documents, coordination with the state.
Insurance.
Media, fundraising teams, and the list goes on, you know.
Right.
So we needed to prepare ourselves, and we did.
And you achieved.
It was a matter of, I would say, a month, where everyone was removing debris from the explosion. It took us 1 month to clean the streets and the buildings.
Right.
To be able to start the works.
Where, when you would pick up all of the debris, like you said, where would you put
them? There's a dump next to us in Quarantina, and we took a special permit to put all the debris in one place in this dump.
Okay.
And it was painful the first month because blood was still on the walls. Trauma was still there. People had lost sometimes a daughter, a child, a mother, a parent, a sibling. It was still very.
Would you see some of that stuff
under
the rubble?
Of course.
Pets, things like
No, not human parts, but I would say blood covering. Pets.
Not too much.
No, but it was sad. It was very
heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking, yes. And all of these people were wounded and like from the inside and devastated. And I think this is where it was important to be at their side. I don't care about the construction part. We could have got a company to do that.
Right.
But the presence and the solidarity and the love
The human touch, right?
And this warmth of the human touch was the most beautiful thing.
It's the most valuable thing.
So these people felt safe, surrounded,
decent, dignified,
taken care of. Volunteers would come every day to make sure they're good, to take them, do their...
would you help these people with food and things like this, elementary stuff also, not just reconstruction?
Yes, but I don't think this is anything to be mentioned. The most
important... No, but just wondering about the whole context.
Yes, but Patricia, I think this was the most important thing we did.
Right.
The presence. People needed...
They didn't feel alone.
Yes.
Right.
So imagine old people who lived by themselves. They needed company.
There's a huge segment of the population in this area that are elderly.
Yes.
Yeah. So
these people needed presence, needed someone they could talk to. They told us the story of where they were at the explosion time, maybe 400 times each.
Yeah.
But they needed this.
They needed to be listened to. Right.
And imagine the children. We had some effort to make these children children again.
That's a nice way to put it.
They didn't want to play.
Oh.
They didn't want to smile. They didn't want to laugh.
Were they afraid?
Not even a clown.
Could change their attitude.
Yes. Right. So it took us some time to work on these children and to get them out of the trauma they lived.
Did you get the children to help you also in the reconstruction?
Some of them were like trying to move some
hand me this or something like this. Yeah.
But I would say this human solidarity was the most important thing achieved.
The human chain. Yeah.
People coming from all Lebanese regions, from all 17 countries, just to say, guys, we love you, we are here, we're going to help you out.
It just goes to show that when you trespass these community lines or something, we just forget about everything and we all want the same thing.
Patricia, this is one of the things that keep me in Lebanon. When I saw that the youth
work together,
had something to say.
Yeah.
They were able to, I would say, step over all problems and
preconceived ideas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I knew there was hope and that change is coming. And this is exactly what everyone felt. And this group of 6,000 volunteers were able to do all of that work. I hope I can send you some pictures of before, during and after, just to understand a bit what was done and what we're talking about, so people can have just a broad idea of how the most vulnerable and the most affected areas by the blast are now transformed into one of the most beautiful places in Beirut.
It's just amazing how clean and quaint it really is. It's just so nice to walk between on the sidewalks and you just look at the beautiful buildings, and they were even nicer than how they were before. So
exactly, because
it was well studied.
It was a total rehabilitation, not only reparation of some broken windows sometimes or so on. We had to rehabilitate the whole building, from the private and the common sections, the walls, the roof, the water pipes, everything had to be redone, and it was redone properly.
You have to stay so strong throughout this whole time. How were you able to stay so strong? Just by seeing how everybody was energized and working together? Because I'm sure like sometimes you just feel like going, oh my God, how am I going to continue tomorrow?
Well, yes, it was a challenge for me.
Right.
But definitely seeing all these people coming every day, seeing people who are 70 years old,
wow,
seeing our sometimes classrooms coming from schools and universities and other friends and NGOs and this beautiful family of not only of Rujwa volunteers,
Yeah.
it was a collaboration of a lot of NGOs and friends and individuals and so on who made all of this beautiful experience.
Yeah.
I couldn't allow myself to
let yourself go.
To let myself go.
You did let yourself go on a personal level.
Yes.
You forgot about yourself for a while.
Yes, it took me some time to
Yeah.
realize I was maybe neglecting myself. I
Yeah,
would say.
exactly. So somebody came to put you a little bit in place
Yes.
with your fiance, which we're all thankful to her for doing.
Yes, honestly, Patricia, it would have been impossible without the support of my fiance, my family, and my closest friends. This I would say support system
Yeah.
allowed me to do what I was doing.
Just like Ofrajo was giving all of this care and this human touch to the community, they were doing this for you.
Yes, exactly.
Same parallel, I guess.
I would say it's a pay it forward thing.
Yeah.
Where I was lucky to have this support system, and I guess all of these beneficiaries also were lucky to have these volunteers by their side.
Definitely.
So at the end, you look at it and this support from the Lebanese people, from Lebanon and from the diaspora, and the events they ran to like fundraise, and this the number of phone calls we received is crazy, of people asking how they can help, when they can come, and so on. And I can tell you that our hearts were filled. We were very proud to see people abroad giving us this support. People from all over the world.
So you achieved the impossible. We didn't even talk about all the challenges that you probably had to go through.
Yeah.
And do you think that maybe this is, I don't want to call it a mixed blessing, because too many people suffered, but some good came out of it. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen the country united all together, from all confessions, from all communities.
I think there's a macro and a micro reply to that.
Right, okay.
In the macro...
is this the banking part, the
No,
banking
no.
side?
No,
Macro and micro.
No, actually, all of this is very nice, very heartwarming, as we said.
Yeah.
We're very proud of our youth, of the change we did, of the example we set, of this model we offered not only to Lebanon but to the world.
It's a model.
It's a model, yes. But also we should not forget. We should not forget the misery that people went through. We have friends who lost, as we said, relatives and family and a daughter and a son and a father and a sister.
Not mentioning their homes and
Not
their
mentioning
businesses.
their homes,
and
their
things,
businesses, the souvenirs, the trauma they went through, the injustice that is still
ongoing.
We should not forget that part.
Right.
And we all did what we had to do. I believe it's a moral obligation. Our citizenship obliges us to do what we did, and we should not be bragging about it, nor considering that we did something extraordinary.
That's very noble of you to say,
No,
because not everybody thinks this
we
way.
have been preaching for that for the last 15 years,
Right.
going into schools and universities and recruiting people and promoting citizenship. So
Civic duty.
It's a civic duty.
Yeah.
But I think it's also a civic duty to support the victims and the families of the victims until they get their justice. And if justice is not served, I believe we will not become a country.
Okay.
So I believe that Lebanon will only rise again when our politicians will fear the the rule of law.
Do you think that day will come?
One day.
It's going to take a bit of time, but it will come.
Yes, like all countries, they went through
Ups and downs.
and it took them sometimes 100 years after the revolution.
After the French Revolution, for example.
To become a country.
Right.
And it happens that Lebanon is 100 years old.
Yeah. True.
So the first 100 years was, I would say, a confessional political regime. And if lessons are learned and the youth and the new generation is calling for change, I believe that the next 100 years will hold
big
changes.
I think also that we should all learn that the more people unite under one value or principle or not ideology, but human decency or whatever, I think the stronger and the quicker we'll be able to get to that point.
I believe that as well, and I also consider that it's going to take us some time to achieve the change we all want. It's not going to happen overnight.
Definitely not.
Rehabilitating some buildings took us 18 months, and we're still working.
The thing is that
so
we're all
rehabilitating a whole country,
right.
A system, changing beliefs is going to take definitely more than that. So the good thing is that we are on track. The good thing as well is that there is a lot of hope and people working and willing to change. The downside is that people think it's going to happen overnight. It's not.
No, it never happens overnight.
Yes.
And we're all responsible for it.
Yes.
We each have our own little role to improve and to have forward thinking and stuff like that.
And NGOs are doing a very good job. However, I can talk about NGOs for like an hour to tell you that a lot of NGOs are doing a wonderful job, and they took responsibility and they assumed it, and they did also they had a big impact on society, some on elderly, some on education, some on health, some on also rehabilitation, some on children, etc. And everyone was doing more than they can, and they offered a lot of help and support to everyone, not only to the Beirut victims, but also on all the Lebanese territory. But however, also it's also how do you say, inquiétant. Worrisome, because we do not really want to become, we're not here to replace the state.
Right, but that's what I was thinking.
We're not here to replace the state. No. We're here because the state is failing.
Inexistent. Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that NGOs shall or want to replace the state. We need to build our state and our country. We need to take back our state.
Right.
And if it needs rehabilitation and reconstruction, ahla wa sahla, we start the project. But we never want to replace the state. We don't want to become another Gaza, I would say, where human aid and NGOs are replacing the state just to give some people a part of their rights. This is not the country we want to build. We have higher ambitions, yes.
Well, I hope that in a few years, maybe a little bit more than a few years, that we won't need Joie and all these other NGOs, and that it will be sustainable.
That's a great idea.
That's a very idealistic.
That's one of the answers we came up with when they told us what would Joie's target be. Yeah. And then after having some brainstorming sessions, we figured that if we reach a point where Joie is no longer needed, then we would have attended our
You would have achieved your goals.
our goals. Yes. When when we'll be living in a free, plural,
productive
righteous country,
yeah.
I think Afrijwa would have خلاص done its purpose and mission, and can probably work on something else. I hope this day will come, because I know that all of this history and richness and culture Lebanon has will one day be treated and considered as a richness instead
an example.
as an example
That
instead
would be
of being
wonderful.
a point of conflict.
How we
And
overcame.
other countries also had a similar, I would say, model,
Mm-hmm.
and finally understood that instead of allowing other countries to intervene inside and to separate us and dissect
Mm-hmm.
us into communities and areas and confessions, one day will come when we will all understand this and decide to unite, and instead of being used, we will put our own
We work together.
yes, and we will put our own rules for anyone that would need anything from Lebanon,
Mm-hmm.
and then these rules will be so
Our own.
exactly,
Not dictated from somebody
exactly.
else.
And this transition is going to take some time.
It'll take some time, and we'll get there.
But when we get there, with the strategic location of geographical
It
location
is a
of
very
Lebanon,
strategic, right?
with a country that's 10,000 kilometers big, and it's smaller than any, I would say, country or even city.
Yeah,
sometimes.
it's so tiny. It doesn't need that much
And
managerial.
with this beautiful areas and landscape we have, like the beach, the mountains, the village, the countryside.
Everything is in proximity.
All in this small country
Right,
that has
right.
thousands of years of civilization.
Right.
We will have one of the best countries to live in
I think
in
so.
the world.
I think so.
Well, we
When
have
we
a
get
long way
our
to go,
Yeah.
because now, as we speak, I was reading some reports lately, and we are ranking last
Oh,
in almost every sector,
right.
whether the health, the education, the social, the economic, the political, the judicial, etc., the happiness,
Right.
the security, the children rights. We are ranking like 174, almost in all of these criteria. So we hit bottom.
So the only way out is up.
Yes,
Yeah.
but we hit bottom. We are at risk of a total collapse of the system.
Mhm.
It is a very delicate times we're going through on all levels, and I think that we shall build everything up from scratch, and this is what's good in all of this. Otherwise, honestly, we're doomed on all levels. But the only opportunity that arises from this fall is that we can start building back
I knew.
a new
Yeah.
structure, a new Lebanon, a new model for us. to live.
Everything will be brand new, just like a new house.
Mhm.
You get a new fridge, a new stove, new electrical lines, new plumbing.
But most
everything.
importantly, you get to plan
Yeah,
what you want, and it's not dictated.
that's right. I'm glad you gave us this hope because of all of us working together hand in hand for our future, and the base is there. This is a message that we have it in us that we can do it. And I'm also looking forward, Marc, to have a walk through the city with you one day, and we're going to do it one day, and you'll show me all of the work that Afrijwa has done and that you have participated in. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today and telling us about everything that you've been working on and you've already done, and how much hope and time and decency and dignity you've given to so many people.
Thank you, Patricia. I guess this goes to every volunteer that helped in one way or another.
Yeah, we applaud them all.
Yes, they're the main, I would say, actors. We only try to manage all of this goodwill so that all of these efforts are put at the right place and efficiently. So the volunteers did the hard part of the work. Girls and students were carrying like cement bags of 50 kilos. We're doing transporting also cement blocks for on buildings
by stairs.
They were going back at their homes sweating and all I would say dusty. And then their parents would call us to say, man, these people, our kids
You'd
don't
get complaints.
No, not complaints. They don't do anything at home. They don't even
right.
wash their dishes. How did you make them
I can relate.
work that much? So,
I can relate.
Yes, we applaud our volunteers and thank them for everything they did. And thank you for this beautiful opportunity. And I ask everyone who's watching us to maybe go to our social media and check Offre Joie on Instagram and Insta.
Yes,
and just take it to have
interaction.
Not only, but for them to understand better what we have been talking about. And please also feel free to register as a volunteer on our bio link because we have exciting
new
projects in summer.
Wonderful.
Whether for summer camps or for new rehabilitation and construction projects. We're still on the ground since August 4th.
There's still a lot of work to do.
And there's still a lot of work to do. Yes.
Definitely. Okay, Marc. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your share and your partage with us today.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Have a good day too.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.